Welcome to Unscripted Coding. Thanks for joining us. Today, as you can see, we are going to play around with GPT Engineer. Now, this is a second video we're going to do on GPT Engineer, but let's go a bit into the background again. GPT Engineer is an AI-based coding tool, coding assistant. Basically, you ask it to build an app, you give it some of the specifications, and it will build out that app for you. Just everything from the bottom up. Now, in this channel, we've done a lot of these AI coding tools, and we've kind of worked our way downwards. We started at Copilot, Code Whisper. These are basically like autocomplete, autocorrect for programmers, and now we're working our way down. GPT Engineer, I don't think we could get much further down from there, because you are just using plain English to say, I want an app that does X, Y, and Z. Doesn't get much further than that. And so I think this is the very end of the iceberg here. And why we're doing a second video is because that first one, it actually worked. It's very exciting for me to see that anyone in the future could kind of give specifications and just have an app created for them. Now, it's certainly not perfect, and you certainly, at this point, want to know what you're doing, and you're probably going to have to hit some errors, you're going to have to make some compromises to make this all work. But for the most part, I was very, very impressed that it worked in our last video. So this time, we're going to throw a bit more of a challenge to GPT Engineer. Not too much, but one that is a realistic scenario. So, let's get started. In our last video, we already talked about how to set up GPT Engineer. Essentially, you are just doing a simple Python pip install. So if you've installed Python, you can run it in the command line for Python-m pip install GPT Engineer. From there, I have gone to my GPT Engineer folder. I have created a new folder for this project. You can see the text extractor was the one we created the previous time, and it had created a bunch of files for us to use. In this case, brand new folder, nothing in here, of course. And we're going to create a file called prompt. And so what I'm going to do instead is just steal the one we had before, and I am going to open it in Visual Studio Code here. Prompt is nothing special. You can do a .text file, so you can create a new file .text and just remove the extension afterwards. It is essentially for you to give some instructions to the GPT Engineer. Let's go back here. And from there, once you've kind of specified what you've done, you're going to run it in command prompt. So I'm just going to let you read this here while I boot up command prompt. This is what we did last time. But I'm going to go into CMD and run our virtual environment, remembering that you don't always have to do this, but in this case, that's how I've set it up. And then from here, we can just run the simple command of GPT Engineer, our folder. Okay, so last time we had a very simple task. It is a Python script. So in theory, we could do it all in one file and not a lot of dependencies. Now, I did do another test, and I've kind of gone online and looked, and other people have created websites, have asked it to write JavaScript code, done different things to make this work. And for the most part, it works. It is aware of other languages, but Python generally is kind of the softball that you're tossing to GPT Engineer because, number one, Python is one of the most, if not the most popular languages out there. So, GPT is just better at writing Python than, say, something obscure like processing as a language. So Python just generally easier, there's more material, there's more code out there. The other thing is for the software, Python is, it's GPT Engineer is in Python. So part of its ability is after it writes all the code, if it's in Python, it can run it right away. And I suspect that a lot of these AI coding code interpreters and so on are going to prefer Python because it can run it right away. It can make changes and rerun it and run it over and over, basically. So this time around, we're still gonna try and do Python, but we're going to bridge the gap a little bit. What I'm envisioning right now, and I keep building these, but I wanted to build a website. I wanted to build a website in which users can sign up. There's a database, and you can upload photos. I don't know why I want to build this. Bunch of different ideas, possibly, but I think this is a pretty standard fare. You need some sort of back end. You're going to need HTML and JavaScript on the front end, and just in terms of more complications, you're going to need something to handle users signing in, signing out, profiles, and finally, just to add to the complexity, being able to upload images, JPEGs, PNGs, is yet another piece to be worried about. So, let's try and articulate that in English. Create a website in which users can log in and upload photos to their account. Users should have a basic profile, username, and password, can upload and delete their photos. Photos are private to the account and can only be seen by user once they are logged in. Okay, I think that's pretty simple. Create a website in which users can log in and upload photos to their account. Users should have a basic profile, username, and password, and can upload and delete their photos. Photos are private to the account and can only be seen by the user once they are logged in. I'm going to give it a bit more prompting. This is where somebody who kind of knows what they're doing is going to have an advantage, at least for now, with kind of early stage AI. The back end for this website should be done with Flask, a Python module. I don't think that's the right terminology, but let's go with it. User login should be handled with Firebase API calls. Please include a README that will contain instructions on how to set up Firebase and where to insert things like API keys into the project. Images should be limited to JPEG and PNG file formats only. front-end design can use Bootstrap and jQuery. Free to keep design fairly minimal. Okay, so I gave it a few more prompts, and the whole idea here is I want it to pick a stack that I'm familiar with, specify kind of what technologies we're interested in. Flask is a lightweight backend with Python, so that you can serve up web pages, do things like a very minimal database. Firebase is an account management, is an API. I want to say they're Google, but you can use it to manage accounts and other things as well. And finally, for front end, I just threw in Bootstrap and jQuery as kind of fundamental. You could potentially ask it to do anything like Vue or React or some other format. So I'm going to save, and then we're going to come into the right directory here. And what did I call it? GPT Engineer. Photo submission website. This is where the fun part comes in. I did not put the OpenAI key here. So, that is very strange. Oh, this is my mistake, and I will fix it right now. So the last time I did this on YouTube, of course, I would not... I posted up the API key, but I would immediately delete it afterwards. So this is no longer a working key. And by the time this video comes out, this will also no longer be a working API key. Okay, so let's come back here. We're going to set the key up properly, and then we're going to run the command again. And hopefully we'll have a working GPT Engineer. Just like last time, and just like any good engineer, it's going to ask a few clarifying questions. Here are 5 these are the 5 areas that need clarification. First one, could you specify the features you want to be included in the user profile? The user will need to provide their username and password, and the profile should allow the user to change their username and password. We could, of course, say I want location, full name, address, email address, all of that. Don't care about any of that for now. Let's keep it very simple. Next one, max size or resolution for photos that can be uploaded. Let's say 4,000 by 4,000. That is a great question. Let's search up Firebase API. Firebase API for user. That's what I was looking for. I want them... please use the Firebase auth REST API to create, delete, and otherwise manage users. we don't want to rely on the Flask module for logins. Where should the project API keys, where in the project the API keys should be inserted? Please centralize in one single file that contains all settings, keys, etc. Okay, could you specify the level of minimalism required for the front-end design? This was not meant to be minimalism. You can keep front-end design to a minimum. No need for colors or special or images, but please include basic elements like footer, headers, footers, nav bars, etc. You should use Bootstrap and jQuery to achieve this. All right. So, it's starting to spit out what it's thinking of right now. First of all, it has a few classes. A user class, that makes absolute sense. We need users. A photo class, this will manage the photos. Firebase authentication, probably to pair up with the users. Config, and then the main function. So first of all, it's going to have an app.py file, and it's just going to slowly type this out. We can't really see this as we go. So there was a user.py, photo.py, firebase auth.py, config.py, and all there is here is the Firebase API key. And now it's going to create some HTML templates. Okay, so far, pretty bare bones. Requirements, README. Okay, so now that all of that is done, it's got a basic structure. It's allowing me to run some of the code. So let's go with yes. These are the files I put out. And no, it did not run. So I'm just going to give it that feedback. All right. I am going to open a new window. Open this folder in Visual Studio Code so we can take a look at what our engineer created for us. So in the app.py, you have your basic website. So there is an index, there is a login page, a logout page, an upload, delete page. Very simple. Config, we're supposed to go and find the API key. I'm not particularly happy with this. So you can see Firebase just doesn't work at all. These are all suggestions about how to do things, but not actually doing them. The app.py looks like, at least from a first glance, how it would work, but of course this wouldn't. User.py, same thing. I guess it just doesn't have a great understanding of Firebase. Now photos, not happy with this either, of course, because it's saying fetch from Firebase, upload to Firebase. I suppose Firebase is one way to do it. I was hoping that there would be another way to do it through Flask for it to use its own internal storage. So that's probably a question it could have asked for clarification. This is not going to be a functional app for us. Now, if we come in here through index, this has absolutely nothing. Even the two scripts here are irrelevant. It's not a particular script. Login doesn't help. So in short, this one's a little bit disappointing. It's actually okay in terms of the structure. I think this is a great kind of scaffold for me to build on top of, but by no means is this working code that will help me get anywhere closer. It just gave kind of the bare bones basics. And again, helpful in that it kind of formatted it. This all makes sense. This seems like a very standard approach to break everything out. But this wasn't going to help cut out very much time for me. So a bit disappointed here. And the README, doesn't help much either. So it explains what it's thinking. And there was a bit more here too. Over here, it kind of gives us what we should be doing. Simple website where users can upload and delete videos. Create a Firebase project. Oh, see, it even tells you I should enable Firebase authentication and Firebase storage. So it's well aware that I made that decision to use Firebase for storage. It's telling you what to do. Obtain the API key and set it as an environment variable. Install the dependencies and then run the application by running python app.py. Everything makes sense, and I think where we must have broken it is asking it to use Firebase. And for that matter, it didn't do anything with my request of using Bootstrap or jQuery either. You would think it would at least import those two through CDNs or something like that here, but it just completely ignored those instructions. So, again, not terrible, especially since this could take very little time to just set out your workspace. But this is clearly not functional code. It just gives you kind of an idea where to go. It's actually interesting because I was talking to one of my friends about GPT Engineer, and he's not a programmer. So one of the things he was asking me is like, where do I Google? How do I find out what the next steps are? And this might actually be a great kind of learning mechanism of saying, I have no clue how to approach this project. This is your bare bones. This is how you approach it. This is how they would break it up. This is where you would go. And then it's missing a whole bunch of code in the middle. I'm trying to spin this as positively as I can, but yeah, at the end of the day, a tool is only as useful as you make it out to be. So I look forward to seeing if we could do more in the future with GPT Engineer. But this one, good scaffold, not working code, we can maybe throw some other twists in the future. Maybe keep it all within Python, but try and do something more substantial instead next time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.